So I wanted to talk today about journaling and doing it as a daily practice and how bad I am at that, and how this past year, 2016, was really not my year for doing things like day timers and stuff like that. In January, I started going to school, and then in February, I found out we were pregnant. So this is the inserts from my planner from 2016, and I'll show you exactly how far I got. So this is my busy week because I was busy with school and so forth, and I get all the way through December, okay, and into January, and I'm writing almost every day in January's folders. Then I get to February and I write my calendar out, and in here there's like nothing. I honestly didn't even make it 1 month writing in a day timer, you know. I had so little to do, or I got so tired carrying around the day timer that literally I spent all this money on this book and I didn't do anything with it. So I was trying to think of a way to get myself to do something with this, something with the daily practice kind of idea. And so throughout 2017, this is sort of going to be on a flip through basis, and I kind of want to do 1 month at a time. And I'm not going to promise you anything about how often I'm going to post about this or not, but I will try to post regularly a video about doing a flip through and talk about what I've art journaled. Maybe I'll do some process videos throughout the year and so forth, but I'm not going to make any promises about that, because as the last year has taught me, and as the last couple months have taught me, my life isn't in a place of planning right now. So this is going to be my 2017 daily practice journal, and it's all the inserts from my day timer from 2016 and I'm going to use it for 2017. So I hope that you enjoy my process throughout the year of 2017. Let's get started on January. So I start off this project by removing the month of January and all of its pages from the binding. And I put really large rings on this set of pages because I do think that this is going to end up being quite a really thick book by the time that I'm done with it, and I wanted lots of space to play, and I didn't want to restrict myself to having flat pages all the time. I want to allow myself to have the opportunity to add in some fat pages. So my Gelli plate is quite clean, and so I start off with just kind of adding layers and making a mess of it, because printing on my Gelli plate, I really like that really layered effect, but you have to build that up. It's just like any background that you do with any kind of paint or color or paper, anything like that. In most mixed media pages, you're going to build up a background, and that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm building up the little bits and pieces of that background. Now all this is really doing is creating a bit of texture. That little stencil is, I think, one from Stencil Girl. I do use a lot of stencils from Stencil Girl, and there's a lot of stencils from all over the place. I've kind of thrown them all into the same bucket, so often I don't really know where they came from. I just kind of, oh, that looks nice, let's use that. So now I'm lining up the pages. I do this a lot with lining up the holes, and then it looks like it's going straight across. But then I realized it's going to end up with a strip of white on one side and lots of color on the other side, which I don't really mind. It turns out pretty good. So here I leave the mess on the plate and I add my next color. And then I grab another stencil and lay that over top before I pull off that color. This is also a Stencil Girl stencil. And away I go. So I'm not gonna show you all of it. It's kind of long and tedious. I think that I was playing with my jelly plate for a good 3 or 4 hours. I basically handed the baby over to my husband and said, "Look, I'm going downstairs, have fun." And I walked away. So I went through and I did this whole process, and I was like, no, I'm not going to stop no matter what until I'm done getting all of these pages jelly plate printed. And so that's what I did, is I just added layer and layer and layer upon layer into this jelly plate and stenciling and onto the pages. So I did one side of the pages to start, and then I went back through and did the second side of the pages. And as I was going back through to do the second side, I printed some of the things that were missing or didn't have enough on them, didn't have enough texture or to cover the writing on the page, or were just, you know, the ghost prints, and I didn't want just simple ghost prints for most of it. I wanted a little bit more of a heavy color palette on each page, just kind of to give the page some structural support by adding paint to it, and also to cover up the lines and the agenda and the dates and stuff like that that were on the page. One of the problems that I had with this whole process was making sure that I got really diverse colors. I found that I was drawn to one color palette, and then I really only wanted to lean towards that color palette, and so then I had to say, oh no, pull it out, do something else. So and then I had to keep going back through and doing it over and over again. So here I combined this purple with the blue, or sorry, the purple with the orange and the green. And you know, it looks kind of funny, but it came out really great. And I was really happy with how it came out. So when you do these combinations, they often just snap against each other and really make the pages pop. So at the risk of creating brown, I went ahead and did this, and it turned out quite fabulous. And then you end up with that little bit of a mess still on the plate, and with that little mess on the plate, then you can keep going and getting those different layers and different things popping up, coming through, and instead of getting just these solid colors all the time. I could just go through and get the nice solid prints every time and nice thick layers of paint, but wasn't my intent. So I'm just going to skip forward and do the flip through and show you what I got over this whole 3 to 4 hour process. I am going to say that there are some in here that I really love, and there are some that I really don't love. But the point of the whole process is really to start somewhere, and I really wanted January to be like a jelly plate January, and so that is the direction that I went with it. So these will all be the backgrounds for my month of January. Now, there are 31 days in January, and I don't think that it's reasonable for me to expect myself to jelly plate print or, you know, create a journal every day of the month, just simply because my life is a little bit hectic with my 3 children and so forth. So I'm going to just kind of play it by ear. So if I say only get, let's say, 15 spreads in, then I'll just move the February tab over and then continue with February. And then whenever I'm done with these spreads of my jelly prints, then I can move on to creating something else for the month that I land in. So it's a promise to myself that I want to try to make sure that I get a little bit of creativity in every day. But my creativity often spans a lot of different genres. So this would be the art journaling and mixed media kind of aspect of my life. I also do a lot of ATCs, and I do a lot of crocheting and fiber crafts. I do quilting, I do baking. So this isn't just the only creative outlet that I have, and so I will more than likely not be journaling every single day, but these are my beginner pages for that art journal. I did think that maybe I could thicken up the pages a little bit to hold the media, whatever I decide to put on them, whether I'm layering papers or painting or whatever I decide to do on them. The acrylic paint that I use here will give the pages just a little bit of stabilization for whatever I decide to do. So there is that aspect of it as well. Coming months, after I get through this stack of Gelli printed pages, I'm going to try to go for things like a month of gessoed spreads and a month of absorbent ground and water medium spreads kind of thing. So I want to kind of challenge myself this year to try and be creative every day, with the expectation that not every day will have the time for self-reflection and so forth. So that is my beginning stack, and we will see where I end up by the end of January. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and join me for all my creative moments.